theme is International Standardization Activities, Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. Expectation and Future for the ITU Association of Japan. And the moderator will be Tetsuo Yamakawa, the president of the ITU Association of Japan. And I will now hand it over to President Yamakawa. President, please.
Thank you. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our panel commemorating 50th anniversary of ITU Associations of Japan. My name is Tetsuo Yamakawa, president of the association and also the moderator. First of all, taking this opportunity, I would like to extend my heartfelt appreciations for those who have supported our association for these 50 years. 50 years is a long time. 50 years ago, when our association has established, Nippon NTT, Nippon Telegraph and Telephone, and KDD Corporation dominated the telecom market all over the nations. But today, tens of thousands telecom industries are very active in one of the most competitive market. Still, there are things that haven't changed during this time. That is, presence of the ITU, International Telecommunications Union, established in 1865, most traditional international organizations of the United Nations. Today, we invited distinguished three panelists related to ITU from all over the world to explore how each institutions respond to the increasingly complicated issues of international standard. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome distinguished panelists. First from Geneva, Switzerland, His Excellency Mr. Holin Zhao, Honorable Secretary General of International Telecommunication Union. Welcome. Excellency, thank you for joining us today, and I'm most grateful for the certificate of appreciation that you present us today. Thank you very much.
So another one, yeah.
So next from Bangkok, Thailand, His Excellency Mr. Masanori Kondo, Secretary General of Asia Pacific Telecommunity. Welcome. So Excellency, thank you very much for joining us today.
Yes, it's my pleasure.
And last but not least, from Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications, Japan, Mr. Yasuo Tawara, Director General of the Global Strategy Bureau. Welcome.
Thank you very much for this opportunity today.
Thank you for joining us. And because all of the panelists today deserves excellency except me, so allow me to call Zhao-san, Kondo-san, Tawara-san, Japanese style, sort of. Thank you for understanding. Okay, let's start. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, today, telecommunications or ICT are getting more and more important. It is the key to boost economies, to build the new society, which is carbon neutral, and accelerate many kinds of progress towards the sustainable development goals of the United Nations under these challenging situations with COVID-19. And of course, the role of ITU, which is at the forefront of development of technologies such as AI, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, or 5G or 6G, is also getting more and more important. Japan is one of the most active participants of ITU, supporting its activities to manage spectrum and satellite orbits, development international standards, and strive to improve ICT access. Our association, ITU Associations of Japan, has been contributing ITU activities and, of course, APT activities as well. And we are committed to keep contributing them. Not only these 50 years, but another 50 years with our respective supporting members. Okay, so at the beginning of the session, I would like to ask each panelist for a short presentation. First presenter is Jiao-san, one of the most influential person in telecommunications and ICT area, Secretary General of International Telecommunication Union. Jiao-san, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Dear friends, let me first of all, offer my heartfelt congratulations for the 50th anniversary of ITU AG. This is a great moment to celebrate what achieved by this marvelous organization, which organize, consolidate, inspire, all the stakeholders of ICT in Japan and make contributions to the international efforts, strengthen cooperations with ITU. So that I think that I like your statement. We should also look for the next 50 years for the wonderful role ITU AG could help us. I always said that today we enjoy this ICT achievement and ICT's benefit, but we should not forget that this is something we worked very hard, and standardization make very important contributions to the achievement today. And when we talk about standardization, and ITU surely is most influential international intergovernmental organization body. And within this body, what makes ITU strengthen? I think that the Japanese contributions is absolutely important and key to our success since the 1950s, if not earlier. And in 1920s, we had the CCIT, CCIF, then we combined this in 1956 as CCITT, so that when Mr. Otomi was Secretary General, I invited him to join us to celebrate the 50th celebration of CCITT, that is 2006. And if you look at this history, you will find that a lot of Japanese technologies shared with the world, and a lot of Japanese experts, to lead our technology standard process. But I think that this is something we should not forget. And this always remind me that when we talk about today's ICT benefit, we should not forget these pioneers and those generations of Japanese experts who helped us up to now. So that is my first comments. And then, of course, I also like to touch on the standardization. And the standardization is very important. And in Japan, you have also other organizations like ARIB, like TTC. They work very hard in their respective field to organize the corporations of Japanese stakeholders to promote their technologies and solutions to international standard making process. So this, I think that I would very much like to also take this opportunity to appreciate their contributions and of course encourage them to go. And the standardization, today's situation is somewhat different. Let me just quickly run through that before 1988, it's only ITU, ISO, IEC. And before 1988, we have our recommendation approved every 4 years. And now with new situation that the privatization of international business of telecommunication services from government monopolized one to to market one, and with the new technologies pushed by big companies to be available in the market earlier, so that a lot of consortia forum, and we make a lot of challenges to ITU's standardization process. But ITU also adopted itself to work with the time and to meet the expectation of our industry. We moved our approval process from every 4 years to then 1.5 years, and then to 9 months. Now we can even move that much faster. So this is very important. But more importantly, ITU always try to keep its close link with industry and try to encourage industry to work through ITU process. So, Mr. Chairman Yamakawa, so let me just stop here for a moment, because I think that we will have some discussions.
Thank you, Jiao-san, and thank you for consideration for the processing. I really appreciate your kind mention for us, and we will do our best. So next presenter, I would like to invite Kondo-san, Secretary General of Asia Pacific Telecommunity. Now, Kondo-san, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Yamakawa-san, if I may call so. First of all, I would like to congratulate ITU AJ for its 50th anniversary, and I'm very honored to be invited to this panel discussion on this memorial occasion. I would like to thank ITU AJ, Mr. Yamakawa-san, and its staff for this excellent arrangement. So today I was given the topic international standardization activities yesterday, today, and tomorrow, expectation and the future for the ITU Association of Japan. So can I share my slide? Yes, so next slide, please. So in line with that topic, today I'd like to introduce the APT activities from 3 aspects, namely scope, status, and strategy. Next slide, please. So first is the scope. The scope of standardization is changing, or I should say expanding from left-hand side to right-hand side. For instance, objective of standardization is expanding from device to service or social system, such as security, disaster management, and smart city. And for participating business or industry, the purpose is also expanding from the aspect of efficiency or getting a competitive position to creating a new market by introducing a new idea new ideas as technologies. But as an APT, while we are observing these trends in standardization activities, for many APT member countries, which are developing countries, it is not easy to follow this global trend practically or in terms of feasibility. And they have sometimes not so many available human resources to follow everything as usually developed countries can do. So next slide, please. So next topic is status of the current APT activities. So basically what APT is doing. So currently, APT is doing mainly two things, or 2 main activities in the field of standardization. One is the platform to consolidate regional voice, which is basically to prepare ITU's WTSA meetings. So by consolidating regional voices from Asia Pacific region, we submit so-called common APT common proposal to WTSA. That is one of the activities in the field of standardization. Another activity is APT standardization program, so-called ASTAP. So outcomes of ASTAP could be communicated based on members' intention to outside international fora or implement domestically in each member countries. So here outside the international fora, at this current situation, mainly to communicate with ITU TSB activities. So in such a way, we closely collaborate with ITU TSB activities. Sometimes we exchange a liaison statement and so on. So, as one of the activities of ASTAP, I would like to mention or emphasize that currently so-called bridging standardization gap, or BSG, bridging standardization gap, is becoming more and more important because APT members, as I said, basically developing countries, they are gradually expressing their willingness to participate in the decision-making process of standardization. But as I said, it is not easy. So bridging standardization gap is a big topic under the umbrella of ASTAP. In that connection, we are seeing or planning to consider how we can enrich or strengthen our capacity building program in order to serve our members, requirement as such, meaning that how to provide training courses for those people in order to establish standardization organization in each APT member countries. Next slide, please. So third topic is strategy as a way forward. As I said, currently, except WTSA prep meeting, ASTAP is the key pillars for APT standardization activities. But as a strategy for our future, we would like to expand or strengthen the capacity building program or even pilot project program. For ASTAP, so first pillar is ASTAP, second pillar is capacity building, third pillar is the project. So those are three pillars which we can consider as tools to build our future. So first, ASTAP. So ASTAP has just launched new initiatives to discuss, reform, and improve the function of ASTAP itself. So they are considering how they can formulate the guidelines or guidance to our APT members, and also how to implement domestically in each member countries. Well, of course, we can continue to collaborate or communicate with the outside international organization, especially with ITU. And second pillar is capacity building. This part will be important in coming few years, I think, based on the needs from our member countries. Through these capacity building programs, we are considering, or at this moment, we don't have so many training. As an APT, we have training courses, 25 to 30 training courses every year. And we train more than 600 trainees every year. But in terms of standardization activities, we don't have so much training courses. So we would like to allocate certain resources to standardization activities in the future, through which we can train how to negotiate in the field of standardization, or how to catch up, how to understand what's going on as an industry trend and so on. And the last pillar is a project. We have a small project, but it would be effective for our member countries. So through a pilot project, we may consider to support our member countries' effort to establish standardization organization in their countries. So that would be a very good stepping stone for our member countries in order to contribute to the global decision-making process. Next slide, please. So in the end, this is the last slide. So I was asked what was the expectation and future for the ITU Association of Japan, ITU AJ. So my simple answer is the work and scope of standardization is changing. So it's the way, how, and what ITU AJ and its member can contribute and collaborate with others. That would be my answer. So next slide is the end. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Kondo-san. Please give my best regards to APT members. I would like to invite next presenter, Tabara-san, Director General of Global Strategy Bureau, Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications. Tabara-san, sorry to have kept you waiting. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Yamakawa-san. First of all, I would like to congratulate the ITU AJ on its 50th anniversary. In relation to the theme of today's panel discussions, I would like to touch on some aspects in connection with responding to new technical issues and contributing to human resources. I hope this will help to deepen today's discussion. Today, the expectation for ICT to resolve social issues, including technical issues for international standardization, are becoming more diverse and sophisticated. Standardizing new technologies can be expected to reduce cost by ensuring the interoperability and quality of products and services, as well as by encouraging the participation of more players. Based on this recognition, in Japan, we think there are 3 areas of standardization that should be focused on. The first is innovative network areas that will lead to beyond 5G. The second is platform and cross-cutting areas, and the third is use case-driven area. For example, we understand that the beyond 5G will be completed by the evolution of not only the wireless field, such as frequency resources and modulation technologies, but also by the entire network through the development of complex element technologies like optical communications and encryption technologies. Since the idea that the standardization of these technologies is important from the perspective of promoting the evolution of entire networks, we are contributing to the activities of the ITU and other organizations. We will work on international standardization activities in cooperation with the private sector. Next, I would like to talk about contribution in terms of human resources. The ITU is expected to hold important conferences of each sector from 2022 to 2023. At these conferences, the chairman and vice chairman for the next study period will be appointed. During the current study period, across all sectors, there are a total of 19 active study groups, and Japan has produced a chairman and the vice chairman in more than half of the study groups, who have led discussion on research topics. Needless to say, many of the people who attend this ceremony today have made a great contribution to the activities of ITU, including international standardization. We believe that such human contribution will continue to be important as a part of Japan's role to play in the ITU. At the next study period as well, we would like to actively contribute to human resources by being appointed to important positions, such as chairs and vice chairs of study groups. In addition, as introduced today by Mr. Shintani, the State Minister for Internet Affairs and Communications, we have decided to nominate Mr. Seizo Onoe, the CSSO of NTT, as a candidate for the next director of the TSB in the election of, to be held at the ITU Plenipotentiary Conference scheduled in next year. We will do its utmost to support his election. And I would like to talk about the implementation of technology in society. And also, it is expected to contribute to solving global issues such as the increasing number of these disasters caused by climate change and prevention of infection diseases. We believe that it is important to implement ICT in global society. From this perspective, we are working to support the development of ICT services for the international community at the various levels, including through participation in joint projects under the ITU and the APT. Here is an example. There is a growing need for enhanced communications infrastructure, especially in Africa, where broadband penetration is low due to the COVID-19 outbreak. Last year, the ITU and the MIC of Japan collaborated to launch a joint initiative, Connect to Recovery. Under this initiative, gaps and bottlenecks are related to the utilization of communication networks and digital technologies. To prevent the spread of COVID-19 infection will be investigated and demonstration project will be implemented. International standardization plays a very important role to in spreading such ICT services to the global society. On the other hand, ICT is advancing rapidly and is becoming widespread across the world. So the activities required to promote its international standardization are becoming increasingly more complex and involve a large number of stakeholders. International standardization activity cannot be achieved by the power of governments alone. The ITU need to involve more sector members and collaborate with various private organizations in its activities. And platforms such as the ITU Association of Japan, where the government, private companies, and even non-profit organizations can work together to contribute the activities of the ITU, will become more important in the future. I look for the future activities of the association and its members. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Tawara-san. I'm so glad to know that you are going to support Mr. Onoe for running the next election for the director of TSB. And I would like to thank all of you for your kind mention for ITU Association of Japan. We will do our best to play the expected role with, of course, our respective supporting members. So now I would like to start the discussion part. All of you mentioned the future of the telecommunication standards and the role of and expectations for ITU. I think it's a very tough challenge for ITU and APT as well, as telecommunications or ICT technology is changing so rapidly nowadays. You must try very hard to keep up with change. Actually, I have to buy my mobile phone terminal every 2 or 3 years. Now, this is 4G, but next time 5G, most probably. So I would like to ask you how to respond to rapid changes of telecommunications and ICT technologies. First, I would like to ask Xiao-san. ITU is the only specialized agency for information and communication technologies of the United Nations. And you are committed to connect the world's people wherever they live and whatever their means. But actually, telecommunications and ICT technologies, which is connecting us, is changing so rapidly. How do you respond to rapid changes of telecommunications and ICT technologies?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, technology moves very fast. As I mentioned earlier, that before 1988, even 4 years still seems to be good enough for us to adopt the new technologies, and after that, it's not possible. And today, the ICT technologies move very fast, even faster than before, the last decade. However, the standardization is still very important, because if you want to have, for example, you talked about the 4G mobile phones, 5G mobile phones, you need a standard. You cannot just assemble things together, then put it in the market. You need a standard. And this standard should be developed by someone. And this standard, I give you one example. When we developed our 3G technologies, year 2000, and then WiMAX was not there in the family of 3G. And they don't want to be, linked with the 3G technologies. They consider that we are moving more faster. We go our own way to the market. But then they realize that the international market will not accept that way, because they want to first to have assurance this will be technology accepted everywhere and worldwide, not just by a few companies, by a few areas. Therefore, Mr. For example, Brunei, I was there in year 2000 under the meeting of APT. The minister told me that the WiMAX came to their market, said that forget 3G, ITU is developing. Let's use this new one, and this is 4G now. And then, the minister said, is that accepted by ITU? Is a part of ITU standards? They said, not yet. Maybe if you do successfully, that will be 4G accepted by ITU. But that means you don't have, competent international authority to recognize your technologies by standards. Then it's not easy to go into the market. What happened afterwards? You remembered. I think that our radio expert remembered. Then 2007, WiMAX come back to ITU family to ask to put their technologies into 3G family. And because our American friends are very strong in the market, so that if that is not the case, it's difficult, because 3G technology already approved the 2000, and 2007 you ask to add another one to 3G family. That is normally not working. But that is something very important for us to keep in mind. So ITU is still a very competent international standardization making process organizations. And today this is only one in UA. But also together with ISO, IEC, 3 are big ones in the market. But we are challenged by many industry fora consortia to develop their technologies. And sometimes they reach the agreement, they can go very quickly to the market. But still, to have international acceptance, you need someone to have some kind of recognition. So that ITU is to still enjoy that one. Now, ITU to keep this authority does not mean that we will be welcomed by market, by industry. You have to make sure our work is relevant to the market, meet the market expectations. So we are changing ourselves always, try to move things faster and to cover new areas. For example, for the pandemic, we worked with WHO to have a focus group for AI for good health, so that we work for, with FAO to look for opportunities for e-agriculture. And we work with UNESCO to try to develop standards for museum, for the other. So we are also very good to to find new partners and to come to the, of course, you mentioned AI, you mentioned cloud computing, this Internet of Things, IT is always doing. And then the quantitative, that the communications, IT is also working. Now here, there's the problem, because this is process, and then someone like to move fast. And here we have to coordinate with everybody, sometimes, delay or late. So that this is always, some conflict, confrontation here. But IT is always managing very well, to have some kind of, delay to make sure that everything is good. Then people could easily afterwards accept that one. So that is ITU is doing. And here I think that Japan also, help us a lot. As I mentioned earlier, to make ITUs competent, you need to have international technologies. And in 50s, 1960s, that is Americans. And then 1970s, 80s, Europe started come up, plus also Japan come up from Asia. Now Asia, we have CJK, that Japan, Korea, and China. And I'm pretty sure India will come. I'm pretty sure, ASEAN members will come. But for the moment, that our Asia market is growing and Asia technology is accepted. And then, that ITU today is still valid. Why? Because people don't think that one, continental technology will be considered as international. So that you need everybody come together. So ITU is still the only place. So that one, I'm very confident that ITU will try work hard with our member states, and also, as I mentioned, to have industry support to our standardization making process. It's absolutely key. We lost confidence from our industry. We have no future. So we have to work with them. And today also, not only big guys like Docomo, like China Mobile, or like AT&T and Telefonica, or these kind of things. But small, medium-sized entrepreneurs is also absolutely important. They have a rich source of innovations, new ideas, and they can manage their new technologies with local need to develop their own local applications. So this SME is everywhere in the world. So ITU, we already started to try to engage with them. And this is something also new to us, and try to make their efforts into our mainstream of international standard for new technology. And here the partnership is absolutely important. Mr. Kanto's effort to organize Asia Pacific, technology, because here Asia Pacific is not only the huge market, but it's also huge of innovations. And in Europe we have ETSI, Europe Technology Telecommunication Standardization Institute. They are coordinated, they're united. While in Asia, we need someone to work together. So that ABD already worked in this field very, very actively for almost 2 decades. So that one, also very important for us. And in the United States, we have the others, ANSI, and we have now also see some effort from Latin America, from Africa. But it will take some time to get all these people come together. But still, everywhere if you look at the situation, people still respect the ITU. So we have to work hard with our members, with our industries, with our partners to make our environment attractive, because you cannot force people to come. You have to make sure they're attractive, relevant to their future business. Then I think that today we still have population not connected yet. We need a new innovations to connect the half, not connected yet. With the old technologies, old mindset, you will not be able to quickly change that situation. So we needed to engage SMEs to help us to do this kind of effort. No, let me just stop here. What I'm saying that the ITU, for me, is still very good international intergovernment standardization making organizations. It's the only one in the world. All the others is not intergovernment. And then it's also, we are, very closely working with our members, with our industries, and we look for the future. We pick up the latest. Why ITU is still valid after 156 years? Because we always work with innovation, and we always keep ourselves young in our mind to work with the industry. So that one, I'm also pleased that Japan also consider ITU has a great future. Otherwise, you will not nominate an expert to be a candidate for standardization director, right? So that So I'm also very encouraged by your nomination that Japan consider ITU is still relevant and important. You want to support us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zhao-san. So Kondo-san, Zhao-san mentioned the importance of the meeting the market expectations, and he's very confident that ITU is the only organizations for the international standardizations. But I think APT is a platform for cooperation and collaboration, which makes the problem even more difficult, because you mentioned that you're trying to, for example, the consolidating regional voice or bridging standardization gap, or maybe you have to you are playing a very vital role for the development of telecommunications in the region. I suppose some of the members request speedy procedures or quick responses, and you have CJK in the members. On the other hand, APT's tradition, I understand, is a kind of friendly based consensus. So I would like to ask you, how can you provide respective platform services in such a very difficult situation in the rapidly changing telecommunications area, and how about?
Okay, thank you for the question. That is a very crucial question and real issue for APT. So basically, I very much agree what Zhao-san said. And in addition to that, what APT is trying to do is rather simple. Listen and implement the voices of our members. So therefore, the important thing for APT is to have an institutional process and flexibility that can reflect members' suggestions and comments for any improvements, if any. So for example, as I said, RSTAP for standardization activity, and now RSTAP is, there is a group under the RSTAP to discuss enhancement of RSTAP role and function. So of course, this group is not the first one to discuss such a possible improvement of RSTAP activities, and certainly will not be the last one. We continuously try to improve to improve our functions as RSTAP, while we recognize those difficulties between the market trend and the actual decision-making process. But crucial thing is that, as Mr. Zhao said, there is a certain needs or demand why people come to such a fora to discuss standardization. Without such a platform, people maybe just go to the market and try to find a de facto standard, so-called de facto standard. But there's a pros and cons. So there's a certain advantage to have a platform. So, but we are not try to be just status quo. We are trying to improve all the time ourselves. So in such a way, APT is trying to respond to the demand of APT members. So that is the kind of answer to your question as APT. So we are not just keep a status quo. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kondo-san. Finally, Tawara-san, you are in charge of entire global strategy. Therefore, for international standardization, for example, you have various options such as adapting the forum standard or the de facto standard as well. So from the perspective of making the activities of ITU or APT more attractive to sector members who are competing in the global market, do you have any idea or request or contribution to accelerate the activities of ITU or APT?
Thank you, Yamakawa-san. The purpose of standardization of new technology is not to create standards, but promote early social implementation and widespread deployment of such technologies and services through standardization. At the same time, we believe that it is desirable to have various ways as strategic tools and means for acquiring and expanding markets. Therefore, I think it is important to use ITU recommendations, forum standards, and de facto standards as tools and means. In addition, players involved in standardization are becoming multi-stakeholders. Since the ITU is composed of various stakeholders who are mainly member states, sector members, and associates, we recognize that the ITU will be activated by the opinions and activities of these diverse stakeholders. The de facto standard, the focus group framework has already made it possible to deal with multi-stakeholders to some extent. However, I think that if we can promote standardizations while increasing interaction over traditional levels, non-ITU members organizations such as non-profit organizations and consumer organizations, then the ITU will become more attractive. And standardization activities that address environmental and sustainability issues, which have become global challenges, will be useful for creating new policy, trend, and markets. And it will also make the standardization bodies more attractive. So, and in addition, the ITU has been improving its recommendation approval processes over the years. It is also the right of the member countries and institutions to propose such improvements, and these improvements should be made constantly. We hope that sector member will proactively propose improvements so as to fully exercise these rights. Make ITU standardization easier to use as strategic tool and means, and to carry out attractive activities as a human-based standardization organization. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Tawara-san. As time is running out, I would like to quickly proceed to next topic. Well, nowadays, I think the things are a little bit complicated because telecommunications or ICT is becoming a very important strategic area for many member states, including, of course, our respective MIC. So sometimes there are serious conflict between member states or sector members. The conflict includes not only competition in global market, but also cybersecurity or supply chain management and so on. So the next topic I would like to cover is how to balance the utilization of technologies and the consideration for stakeholders. Maybe in Japanese, sontaku or something like that. So this time I would like to change the order first from Tawara-san. I would like to ask, you mentioned the new improvement of ITU, and you mentioned you suggested the joint project of the MIC and APT ITU, and I think I believe that you were also promoting an overseas expansion of Japanese ICT technologies and taking various actions to support the overseas deployment. And I believe you are sure that utilizing Japanese technologies contributes a lot for addressing the ICT infrastructure or implement the ICT infrastructure in the global world now. So maybe towards the bright future of the digital world, right?
That's right. We believe that we can contribute to solving various social issues in the global society, including bridging the digital divide by widely utilizing Japan's excellent ICT technologies, such as 5G and optical cable in the world. In order to such Japanese technologies to be used more widely around the world, it is necessary for all parties concerned in Japan, including relevant ministries and agencies, private companies in various fields, financial institutions, and startup companies to work together. As a means for realizing these collaborations, we have started an initiative called the Japan Platform for Driving Digital Development. Through such effort, we would like to make Japan's ICT available to more countries and regions. Thank you.
Thank you, Tawara-san. Kondo-san, Tawara-san seems to be so proud of Japanese technologies. I understand this APT should be technically neutral, but actually APT supports to meet many kinds of coordination to realize the cost-beneficial, maybe safety networks with the latest technologies. How do you respond to the pressure from stakeholders such as Tawara-san?
Thank you, young question. So in this regard, maybe I would like to mention two points. First, APT doesn't think it is a pressure. Rather, we will take it as a positive signal from Japan to utilize the APT platform more. So APT always welcomes proactive engagement from members. So since Japan is one of the most advanced industrialized countries in this region, such a positive contribution from Japan will certainly, I think, facilitate and stimulate the discussions at the APT platform. So currently, China, Japan, and Korea, so-called CJK, are the key players in the field of standardization activities of APT. So I would like to expect Japan would strengthen its engagement, as Tawara said, together with ministries, some relevant agencies, and private sectors as a whole, and play even a bigger role at APT. Then second, APT has expertise to provide coordination platforms among members. So while we would review and restructure the decision-making process as required, with proactive engagement from members, we are actually confident to be able to consolidate regional voices as APT in an efficient manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The very last, Zhao-san, I want you to put this discussion together well at the end. How ITU respond to balance the utilization of technologies and the consideration for stakeholders, taking all the complicated issues into account. Zhao-san, please mute Sam.
Yeah, okay, you get it. I mean, I agree with you that the promotion of new technology is absolutely important. But unfortunately, ITU is not very strong in this field. You know that, for example, what I mentioned, WiMAX develops their technologies, but they strongly pushes their technology into the market. While you have Wi-Fi connections, IEEE also strongly promotes their technology in the market. While ITU developed a lot of technologies, but did not really promote, for example, this virtual platform. None of this virtual platform today in the world can be working if you don't have our video coding system. The video coding system, H323, H264, all these are developed by ITU, And then in 1990s, under the leadership of our Japanese experts as reporters, as working groups, and we never promoted that one. We don't charge anybody for this, and we don't really say that this is our technology. This is not only a virtual meeting platform. Even these smartphones, none of the smartphone can work without this video coding system. But nobody knows this is ITU technology. Nobody pay attention to that. So that we are unfortunately not very strong. So we have to do more to promote ourselves. But of course, not only this kind of activities, but many activities like a forum as the others do. And so that is the first point I like to talk. I know that Tawara-san and Kanto-san also talked about promotion of your Japanese technologies outside of Japan, and in particularly in Asia Pacific regions. I really support this one and appreciate that one, comment on that one. It's not enough. But the Japanese technology, Japanese services are really appreciated by the world. Particularly, that in the developing world, that when I was in Africa during ITU Africa Telecom 1998, I was surprised that in this ITU Telecom Africa in Johannesburg, there's a new Japanese stand. You simply give up the Africa market. And that is my first message when I visited Japan in August 1999. I said, I think it's a mistake. But then at that moment, I was advised by many Japanese experts, it's not profit making, that we really cannot afford this one. Yes, that moment it was a poor market, it's not much progress. But nowadays it's different. East Africa market is very dynamic. So I talked to my Japanese friends, but I was told that the Japanese community still consider it's not a profit making. But what you focused is our Asian market. That is your priority. So when we get telecom in Bangkok, you come to join us. When you have a telecom outside of ASEAN member region, you don't come. So this is also not enough. So I would very much appreciate that Japan will put the world market as a world market for you. You have a potential huge, development in this Africa market. This Arabic market or this one. So that I really want to encourage you. Now, for the partnership between government and the industry, yes, indeed, we still have to address this issue because we are government organization, intergovernmental organizations. We listen to our government, and then sometimes the government have problems with the technologies. But I can tell you, when in the ITUT, whenever we have new technologies, none of these technologies are blocked by Africa state, by developing countries. But if it's blocked, delayed, it must come from a few most developed countries, like United States, like before it's France, Germany, UK, Italy, and Japan sometimes. And Japan never initiated that one. Japan, we are all try to follow the others. So this is why, because there is a huge industry interest there. So that how can we address this one is still a challenge to us. But we have no way. We have to address this. Otherwise, you lose the support from government. It will not be good for us. And then you go to the market, you will not really be strong enough to fight against the other industry, created a forum. And then here, we have new questions in ITU environment. We still considered by many as a telecom club. But today, you talked about the OTTs. And then the new technologies from internet societies, that a lot of innovations, a lot of development, a lot of market influences are coming from OTTs. And then we try to also engage them. Like 1999, Microsoft was not actively in ITU before. They came to my office when I was director of GSP. They like to join ITU because they realize that with their future working method will not work for the communication. For the computers, yes, they can have new versions. They put on market. You have no choice. You buy. But when you talk about the communication, you need to have international family to accept. So they then actively engaged with the ITU, and I'm pretty sure OTT will come to join us as well. And I'm very pleased today. All these big guys of OTTs already joined ITU as sector members in R sector, in T sector. Now, how can we fix this partnership with OTTs, that is also a challenge, for our future. And we need to engage with them. And again, here, let me take opportunity to thank you, Mr. Yamakawa, for your kind invitation for me to join you. And this discussion is absolutely important. But when I was advised to talk about standardization, I said, ITU AJ is not only for standardization in T sector, you also have good RIP members to join the ITUR, the spectrum, all these kind of things. And we have a new sector called the development sector, and a lot of Japanese experts are also actively engaged there as well. So that one, that is something that I would encourage you to also to help us to promote new technologies in the new market. And you have your components business. How can you gain your share of the market? You have your new technologies, quality of services, pretty people, they will take you. Otherwise, they will not. So I was very pleased 2 years ago. I know that in TCAT, in Yokohama, that G20, not G20, TCAT with Africa, you already organized some kind of cooperation with Africa friends. And then Japan also participated at the Smart Africa, Transform Africa Summit, which means that you now try to come back to Africa. So I will encourage you to continue. So that is absolutely important for industrialized country like Japan. Because if you keep your technology for yourself within your territory, or just share with a few of your neighbors, and you have strong neighbors like Korea, like China, but then you go to ASEAN market, then they also go to ASEAN market. So that is, the market is very, very crowded. But the other side, outside of AP area, you have a huge market as well. So I would encourage you to go. So that is, if you allow me, let me just stop here. And if you have any further questions, I'm ready to answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a beautiful conclusion. So I know the time is running out, but if possible, I would like to have some comments from the floor. And by happy coincidence, Mr. Onoe, who is expected to run the election of next director for TSP, Telecommunications Standardization Bureau, is attending this event as one of the award winners. So I would like to have some comments from Onoe-san. Okay? Onoe-san, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Yamakawa-san, for the opportunity to make a comment. I'm Seizo Onoe of NTT. First of all, I was happy to see and talk to Secretary General Zhao-san. Probably for the first time in 3 years. Last time we met in
Barcelona.
PP18.
PP18 also.
Barcelona. Yeah. Yes, Barcelona. Yeah. And today I enjoyed the panel. It was interesting and went into even a bit sensitive issues. As Tawara-san said, the standardization are becoming more complex, involving many stakeholders. Also, as discussed in the question to Zhao-san and Kondo-san, speedy procedures are wanted, and it's a challenge. I think ITU has already responded to those challenges by utilizing external organizations. I feel that the 3GPP mechanism was a great invention. And at the same time, I think the ITU's decision, it was great to incorporate 3GPP specifications into ITU recommendations. That was great, I think. But we need to continue the effort to respond to the further increasing complexity. I'd like to express my respect for the ITU's response so far and look forward to the future outcome. I'd like to contribute too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Onoe-san. And thank you very much again, and ladies and gentlemen. Owing to your great support and understanding, our panel is nearing its ending. So I would like to extend my deepest thanks to you all for your attendance today. And also, I thank you, for your contributions for ITU and our associations, and I expect to have your continuous support for ITU, APT, MIC, and of course, ITU Associations of Japan. Finally, I would like to ask everyone for your kind applause to the distinguished panelists virtually. Thank you. Thank you very much. So that's the end of the panel. I will pass the floor to Yamamoto-san again. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much. ご登壇者の皆様、誠にありがとうございました。以上をもちまして、日本 ITU 協会創立50周年記念式典は閉会いたしますが、引き続きまして臨時 ITU 会合情報連絡会を開催いたします。皆様、ぜひこのままお残りください。本日は受賞者の皆様、本当におめでとうございました。
ありがとうございます。